Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Coming Down. My name's Nathan. I'm sitting down with my co-host, Matthew.
Good day.
So how's your week been? You got a little sick there.
Dude.
Actually, it's been like a couple weeks since we've sat down. So.
Yeah. I mean, I had fucking Ebola, man. It was gnarly.
Damn.
I mean, without getting too graphic, let's just say I'm glad that all my insides are still inside.
So it was like a real flu bug then.
Yeah. And usually I get sick maybe once every flu season, but it's usually upper respiratory. It's not
right. Yeah, like
awful bathroom mojo.
Some sort of cold or whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy, man. I haven't gotten flu in over a decade, but
I don't recommend it.
Yeah, I don't either. Well, you're back on top now, though, right?
Yeah, and Monday was actually the first day since last Monday that I felt okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a rough
Sucks,
week.
Man. Well, such is the plight of getting older. Like, that's one of the things that I've noticed. I mean, not a lot changes when you hit your 30s and 40s, but I've noticed healing takes forever. Like, cuts on my hand take like weeks to heal now. It's, I don't know. It's weird. Yeah,
recovery time.
Getting over little sicknesses can take a little bit longer now. So.
Oh, and 2-day hangovers, man. Fuck all that.
Yeah, right. Totally. Well, yeah, so I saw you Sunday, and you were still feeling pretty rough when we watched the old Super Bowl.
Was it super, though?
It was not. So speaking of which, though, I don't want to talk about the awful game, which was awful, the awful halftime show, which was awful.
We watched the bowl.
Yeah, but let's address the robot in the room.
Oh, fuck.
Because this was weird.
Yeah.
And the commercials were worse than usual.
They were lackluster.
But the through line for the Super Bowl was that...
The common thread?
Yeah. There were so many commercials where it was like all about enslaving robots.
Yeah.
And using robots and AI for our bidding.
And potentially the aftermath thereof.
Right, totally. A whole lot of Basilisk's razor going on there. Where
exactly.
We're like, hey, careful there.
And if you want to stave off the robot apocalypse, here's a little robot that'll help you keep your home safe.
Well, right. That was the one that impacted me the most, where it was this guy walking through life and, all the cell phones and all the Alexas and all the little AI devices and talkie devices everywhere were sort of driving him mad.
Right.
And then, but then it literally tried to sell you a thing that looks like an Alexa.
Yeah.
That is supposed to protect you from Alexa and all these other things.
Exactly.
And it didn't really explain what it did. It just said, this is your home security for the modern world.
Yeah. What I'm assuming it was some kind of wireless security system, with a little fucking Google Home thing as the home base, or any other fucking wiretap that sits in your home,
Man, it was so weird, though.
Yeah.
And there was so many other commercials with, just robots that people had invented that were showing signs of sadness because they realized they were robots, and people just laughing at them about it and stuff. It was bizarre.
Oh god, yeah. There were industrial robots, there were androids, there were helper robots, there were slave robots.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious that Robopocalypse is very present in the zeitgeist currently.
Well, it is interesting because we are getting into that, the future is now. I mean, the AI is kind of happening. Robots are definitely happening.
Oh yeah, macrobots, like actual human
autonomous
level robots.
Yeah.
That's gonna become everyday, or it should have become everyday a long time ago, honestly.
Yeah, they're not just your vacuum anymore.
Yeah, right. Fucking A.
Yeah.
But I think what's more potentially sinister is just the notion that we've heard nothing about nanotechnology in a long time, and microbots are really the thing that's going to turn the world into Grey Goo potentially, and I'm kind of wondering about that shit, and if the robopocalypse is so present on people's minds right now, maybe we're ripe for some new nanotechnology fictional exploitation,
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Right?
Yeah, man. Black Mirror did a couple of those. Or there's at least the one with the bees that was pretty wild.
Okay,
but,
I need to catch up on Black Mirror.
Yeah. Well, speaking of sci-fi hypothetical scenarios.
Nice.
I'll just throw a little teaser out. I stayed up way too late last night, and I don't know what caused the other. So I was I think I started trying to fall asleep, couldn't really get to sleep, so I started thinking about hypothetical scenarios that we could talk about on one of our spin-off podcasts, that we're going to do for the Patreon.
Right.
Maybe even turn it into a full-fledged show eventually.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes.
So then that kept me up way too late because I'm spiraling out of control with all these hypothetical scenarios and writing up all these questions. So I wrote up a handful of really good ones last night, and there's more to come. So we'll actually get that recorded sooner and later,
yeah.
I think.
Absolutely.
We'll get a good panel together and get that going.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, so look forward to that, everyone. I don't know. I don't have too much else to chit-chat about.
Yeah, does this episode need any kind of preface?
Well, so only that this is my favorite story of all time. I mean, this is like, I've told this one more than any other story just because it's really, truly bizarre. And
I'll say.
Yeah, and we get into some cool conversation, too. So many of you have probably already heard this in some iteration because, again, I tell it all the time, and for those who haven't, well, enjoy, because this one's a fun one.
Hell yeah. And I like how you kind of sandbagged this one from me personally, just because you were like, I don't want to fuck this up, I want you to hear it. Like,
yeah, totally. I remember I did a couple times. Yep. Was like, nope, we're gonna have to wait for that one. Yep. So right on. So take a drink of that beer, and so we'll just get into the housekeeping stuff. So we'll just start right off the bat. Say again, thank you to all the patrons that are helping us keep the lights on here. We still just really appreciate that. And anyone else who wants to chip in, you can go to patreon.com/comingdownpod. We have a $1 tier right now, but more is coming soon.
Very soon.
And if you want to hit us up at all, just hit us up on Twitter. That's @comingdownpod. You can Gmail you can Gmail us.
You can Gmail us.
That's all it is anymore, right?
Slide us into that Gmail.
You can Yahoo us. You can Hotmail us. You can't Geocities us anymore as of like a couple weeks from now, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
We can't AOL us either, but
no, I think you can. Our aim is we don't have an aim. No, you can email us at comingdownpod@gmail.com. Feel free to hit us up about anything. If you've got a hypothetical you'd like us to do on the show, feel free to hit us up.
Absolutely.
And if you want to be on the show, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, please just let us know. Beyond that, check out our website, comingdownpod.com. It's got all the show notes. There will probably be a couple links in this week's episode. And yeah, it's looking good, and that'll get you to everywhere you need to go. All our pod platforms, which is Spotify, Google Play, SoundCloud. What else we got? YouTube, Apple, and if you have a minute, do a rate and review on Stitcher, and we'd love to see that. So beyond that, I think we'll just kick it off. Let's go. About dumb Starbucks, and that dumb Starbucks had cropped up in LA, and then I read a bunch of articles about dumb Starbucks and what was going on with it, and then the season came out later because it was the first season of Nathan For You, I'm pretty sure, and so then it was just like much later you find out that it was part of this reality show or this fucking Nathan For You show. Oh, man, but yeah, Dumb Starbucks was a funny episode.
Someone found this, didn't they?
Is there claw marks in that thing?
Yeah, some little scratches.
All right, so I'm going to tell this story.
Did you start?
Yeah, we've been recording for a minute. But I like
Starbucks.
Yeah, whatever. I'll cut out whatever we need to. So this is one of my favorite stories to tell of all time. And I've kind of been sandbagging it because, I don't know, just wanted to make sure that we hit our stride with the cast. And I think at this point we kind of have. And
got our muscles warmed up.
Yeah, exactly. And but this story is so fucking crazy. And I like to call it, I title this story when I tell people out at the bar or whenever, I title it The Weirdest Thing That Ever Happened to Me. Because it truly is just, it's one of those things that's completely unexplainable. And so here it is. So I'm 15 in this story, and my friend Joe is 16. He had just recently gotten his license. So this was like right when we got freedom.
Wow.
So he had a car. He had a Dodge Omni, and this was when we were able to, like, I could leave the house, Joe could pick me up, and we could just go drive around, and
Young
we could,
troublemakers.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we could go to the park and get high in his car or whatever, and it wasn't just trying to get out of the house another way. So this is the first bit of that. I believe I had tripped a couple times by now. I think I had done mushrooms and maybe like one other thing, but we're in the middle of winter. It's a weekend night because it's school year, and it's weekend night. And we are waiting on a friend of ours to acquire some acid. Apparently he has a lead on some microdots or something.
Nice.
Yeah, but we're back then you're always dubious of like, well, we'll see if he actually gets a hold of the guy, or if his guy gets a hold of the guy, and then maybe we'll get these drugs. So we're just driving around. We're awaiting a page, because this is in the day of pagers.
Yes, 911, 420.
Right, yeah. So we're awaiting a page. We're just driving around. It's cold out, so we're not like hanging out at a park or anything. And so in my hometown, we're driving down like the main drag, kind of in the south part of town, and we pass a Barnes and Noble. There's like all these chain businesses like Barnes and Noble and Old Navy and all this other stuff. Yeah, it's strip mall stuff because my whole town's made of strip mall.
Of course.
And we look over, and my friend Brett is like, "Do you guys see that van in that parking lot?" And we look over, and we see this van. And it's late at this point. It's probably like 9:30, 10 at night. And
what time of year?
Winter, I don't know. Is January probably.
Snow on the ground.
Snow on the ground. It's cold. Yeah. And there's nothing going on. It was a dead night. We all kind of knew in our heart of hearts that we were not going to get acid either. Like
one of those.
It was one of those nights where it's like, okay, we're waiting on homie to hit us up, but we kind of knew that was not going to happen. So we were just trying to make the best of a dead night. None of our other friends, there's just nothing going on, so we're driving around just bored. So we see this van though, and this van, it's a total white van, I guess, just like a big Dodge sort of like utility van.
Right.
And we can see even from the road that we're on, looking at the parking lot, that all the windows are whited out. Except for obviously like the driver, passenger, and like the windshield.
Like a panel van, or like they spray painted them white?
Well, I guess it was like a panel van. It wasn't like a roughshod job or whatever. They weren't spray painted white.
But there were windows, and the interior of them was whited out.
Yes.
Okay.
Totally.
That's weird.
And as we find out later, the back two windows on the back bay doors were whited out as well.
That's sketchy.
So that's weird enough,
yeah.
But it's also got this gigantic antenna on it. And And so it's got this big
It's the party van.
I guess.
that's code for the FBI.
Okay. Oh yeah, there we go. Well, no, and so that's definitely what we think. We're like, this is super weird. So it's got this big kind of spire, like one sort of big spire that probably stands, I don't know, as my best estimate, like maybe even a couple feet off the top of this van. It's big. And then off the side of that is a dish. And
wait, van got a dish antenna?
Yeah.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, it was super weird. And so we're like, holy shit, that's really weird. And so then we're like, let's go check it out.
Yeah, because you got nothing on you, right?
Right. Well, yeah, we had nothing on us. I think we smoked the one joint we had, and we're bored, and we're like, yeah, let's fucking go check it out. Because it's also, the businesses are closed. So our first thought, too, we even talked it over. We were like, oh, well, maybe it's a security for, like, the Barnes & Noble or whatever.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is a stretch, but, we're trying to, like...
Sure.
we're trying to think of any possibility of what this van could be.
I mean, you speculate, because in those days no one had Google on their phone, so you just guessed about things.
Yeah, totally. And we couldn't take a picture of it or anything. So anyhow, we kind of loop around, like we take the next turn we can to get over to the parking lot. It takes a second. We loop around. We pull into the parking lot, and the van's gone.
Whoa.
And we're like, well,
spooked him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no. And we were just like, well, God damn it. All right, I guess this is over. So we pulled back out on the little side road behind the Barnes & Noble, hang a right, and then we look up and we're like, that's the van. It's driving down this road.
No way.
Yeah.
Dude, you guys started tailing the FBI?
Well, yes. So we were like, immediately we're like, let's follow it. Yes. Because again, we have nothing to fucking do.
Ugh.
So we're like, let's follow this van. Let's see where it's going to go. And we're in a small town, though. Maybe it's the FBI, but why? We're not, like, in a town with the FBI.
Fort Collins is FBI worthy.
Nothing.
Nothing. Especially the Barnes & Noble.
There's no government conspiracies going on, and there's no anything going on in Fort Collins. There's nothing.
I mean, witness protection program. That's like, the best I can give you,
But why have this super obvious, weird-looking van?
Because the Russians are onto them?
Yeah,
at the Barnes & Noble?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And so we're trying to talk all of this out, too. But so we tell Joe, and we're like, follow that van. So we do.
Yes.
So we pull out.
Oh, I love this.
We pull out, we kind of speed up and kind of get behind the van. And we're on kind of a side street at this point. Then it turns onto a little bit more of a main road. It hangs a left onto a bit more of a main road. It's called Horsetooth Avenue. And so we hang a left and just creep
left on Horsetooth.
Yep, creep up behind it. Hits a red light. We stop, it stops. And then as soon as it hits green, it guns it. And it starts flying. And within maybe a half a mile, it has sped up to almost 60 miles an hour. Speed limit's 40 on this road. But it's also late at night. There's no one on the road. And so we're like, okay, this guy is cruising. Let's follow it. Let's keep following it. So we speed
Fly
up.
casual.
Yeah. So we speed up. And so we're trying to keep our distance, though. So, it's going 60. We're maybe going 50 or whatever. All of a sudden, it runs a red light. A blatant red light. And it just flies through it. And we're like, everyone in the car is like, did it just run a red light? And then we're like, run the red light, run the red light. And we're all goading Joe into doing it. And he's like, okay. And he speeds up and we fly through the red light. And we're following this van still. And we're still just all trying to evaluate. We're like, those windows are whited out. What is that antenna? We're just talking about all of the shit that's going on. It runs another red light. Next light turns red. It blatantly runs through that red light. God. And so we're speeding up. So it's probably going even faster at this point. 65 maybe pushing 7. Probably not, but probably 65. In my memory, I'm like, we're doing 90. But no, but
high speed chase.
But it felt like a high speed chase, and we're doing well over 20 over the speed limit for sure.
Wow.
And so we're running this one, right? And everyone's like, yes, run this light.
Oh my God.
And we run the fucking light. And we start getting kind of up close to it. And then our car dies.
What?
The car completely shuts down. The lights turn off. The car dies.
Dude.
And we just roll it off to the side of the road. Van gone. Just in the distance. It's long gone.
Now, about how far behind the van were you when your car died? As far as car lengths, just estimate.
This was 20 years ago, so I don't know, but we were gaining on it. I'd still say we were 5-6 car lengths. We were gaining on it, but we weren't tailing it. We weren't on its ass.
Now, I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure I have friends who have told me that EMP devices like that are
hold
possible.
On. Yeah, hold on. Because this theory definitely comes up. So we pull the car over, we get out, and we're just like, what the fuck, man? And the van's long gone. We'll never know. We'll never fucking know. So we're all bummed out, and we're just like, well, god damn it. Not only did we lose the van, but the car is dead, and now we all have to deal with this. And so we were like kind of evaluating what might have happened, and we're like, well, maybe it ran out of gas. Maybe in the heat of the moment, we didn't realize that we were on E, and, you know, we were gunning it, and, like, also it was a Dodge Omni. Those cars are pieces of shit.
We cannot rule out the possibility that the Omni just took a shit, I suppose. I mean, that's...
At this point, we can't rule that out.
In the realm of possibility.
At this point, we cannot rule that out.
Can I just say, like... I'm not trying to, like, wheel it back, but I love that you guys had the balls to just fucking run some red lights behind what might have been an FBI van just to see. It's wonderful.
That's how bored we were and how no drugs we had on us.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, like, my experience matches up with that.
I mean, our sort of thought process was like, what really could possibly happen in this situation?
Especially if they're running away from you. Yeah. It's not like they're going to try to bust you for something.
Yeah, no, they were clearly trying to get away from us. So that's what makes it very interesting, is like, that's a fact. They were trying to get away from us. I mean, there's just no way to dispute that. There's no reason that you would drive that fast and run red lights. So
going in excess of 60 miles an hour.
How they figured out that we were intentionally following them so quickly is kind of what blows my mind.
Well, and just if they were pros, you'd think that they would be able to keep their cool a little better than that, you know.
But they're also super obvious. They're this weird white van with a huge antenna on the top, like nothing you've ever seen, and I've never seen anything like it to this day. So I don't really know.
I mean, I've never seen a Comcast van that looks like that.
No,
you know?
I've never seen a news van that looks like that. And if it were a news van, they've got markings. I mean, it was more or less a completely unmarked white van. None of us remember looking at the plates, if there were any.
Right.
Which is unfortunate, because we don't know if they had government plates or what the plates were. So, unfortunately, none of us remember that.
Okay.
Which is stupid. Just in the heat of the moment, though, we're just like, oh, run the red lights! And, like, none of us thought to, like, check, you know, that sort of thing. Anyhow.
You're kids, whatever.
So, luckily, we ran out of gas about a block from...
Oh, so you were out of gas.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. We didn't run out of... We thought we ran out of gas.
Right.
Luckily, our car died about a block from a gas station.
Okay.
And so we all got out and pushed it up the road, wheeled it in.
It's an Omni, easy peasy.
Right, we could have lifted it up and carried it.
Exactly.
Those fucking things. So we wheel it in. We, put some gas in the tank. Doesn't start. It's not even turning over. Nothing. Car's just toast. Right.
What the fuck?
So a buddy of mine, actually one of my oldest friends, this guy I grew up with. Who, I cannot find this guy. If I could ever find him, it'd be cool to reconnect with him. But he was out with me, and he was kind of a gearhead and knew his way around cars and stuff. So he's like, all right, well, let's pop the hood and see what we can see. We pop the hood. Immediately, he identifies that one of the spark plug cables... so when you're looking at an engine, and I'm not a gearhead, but when you're looking at an engine, there's a series of spark plugs.
Yeah.
And then they all kind of have cables connecting each other.
Right.
And they're these little short, maybe like 3-inch cables, right? One of them was cut clean in half. And when I say clean in half, I mean it's like you took scissors and cut it in half. It wasn't like it had been chewed or gnawed at or worn away or melted or burned or anything. It was a completely intact spark plug cable.
So you're looking at a clean cross-section of wiring.
Yep.
That's insane.
Yeah, and we're all just losing our minds at this point because... So him being the gearhead is absolutely losing his mind. We're all like, what does this mean? And he's like, I don't understand how this happens. There's no way for this to happen. And also there are these little 3-inch cables on the top of your engine. So it can't get caught in anything. No. It couldn't have gotten caught in a gear or a moving part or There's nothing there to interact with that.
Right under your hood.
Yeah. They're right on top. It was, in fact, such a clean cut that even I don't understand how this worked, but he went into the 7-Eleven and bought some electrical tape, kind of jammed the two ends of the cable together,
right,
taped it back together, and the car started.
Fuck.
And we continued driving around. And that's how clean of a cut that it was, that the cables were able to just, the wires inside were able to just connect back to each other and get a spark, I guess.
Wow. That's some really fucking weird stuff right there.
Yeah. So that's kind of the whole thrust of the story. But man, like, all it's been is speculation ever since then. We spent the whole night just driving around, just kind of in awe of what happened and not really understanding why that happened.
Have you ever talked to another mechanic about that?
I haven't, but I should. But
so I'd be interested to know.
So I've always said
theories about that.
I've always said that everyone should have a mechanic friend and a lawyer friend, and I have yet to have either. So
yeah. I would even add accountant to that mix. But
that's also legit, and I have none of.
I feel like those are good people to have in your corner.
Right, totally. So, I mean, I guess like my friend in that instance, he was a mechanic. I mean, he was a gearhead. He really knew. Sure. He knew his way around cars, and he was just like, "This is impossible." Like,
I mean, that's my take on it.
Yeah, he was like, "There's no reasonable explanation for how this could possibly happen."
None.
So,
apart from something being inside of that engine compartment that was capable of cutting that wire that we don't understand, like that's
right.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Rational explanations start at maybe something under the hood was flying around in there. A rock, I guess. That seems pretty like a stretch.
Rock couldn't do that.
A chunk of metal, which feels like a stretch. And then rational explanations kind of start and stop at a certain point.
Well, because like this is the thing is, I mean, an electromagnetic pulse is incapable of shearing wires.
Right. So EMP, that was not the case.
Ruled out almost immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
It didn't. It didn't kill all of our electronics. So. Because the car started back up and everything was fine.
Oh, yeah, that's another thing that I should have asked you is, like, how did it actually die? Like, did everything just instantly stop?
Yep.
See, that's what also baffles me is, like, how a spark plug wire could kill the electronics in the car.
Well, but wouldn't it?
No. The spark plugs, all they do is combust the gas in the engine.
Oh, okay. Well, then I have... Yeah, then it gets even weirder because, I don't know, because the whole car just died completely.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. You absolutely did say that when you were telling the story. And so, like, when... Anyway, yeah, so, no, there's no reason that, all the electronics, the headlights and everything, that should have...
Dash lights went off, everything.
I mean, and again,
everything died.
I'm not a mechanical expert here, but I believe even in a Dodge Omni, like, it's not electrically advanced enough that
it was not.
A spark plug wire is going to do anything to the internal electronics on the car.
It was like I don't remember. It was like a 90 or 91 Dodge Omni.
Yeah, I mean that's got like fuel injection, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
but
there's nothing to it.
It's not a super advanced automobile.
Yeah.
So a spark plug wire would fuck up the engine.
Yeah.
The engine would...
So that would kill the engine,
at minimum,
for sure.
misfire to the point where it would probably cease function. But... fuck, dude.
Yeah, what the fuck, indeed. So, so then the speculation starts, and then we start wiling out. We start getting crazy. We're like, did they have a sonic weapon? Did that radar dish pinpoint a cable on our car and slice it through the fucking air, dude? And we're just like making up fucking stories, dude. Like nobody's business, man.
It is beyond fucking X-Files. Like, my god, dude.
Yeah, I mean, and so to this day,
wild ass shit that could explain that is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, to this day, I have no explanations why I title it the weirdest thing that ever happened to me, because it's almost like my UFO story. It's like, look, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's probably an explanation, and there probably is a rational one. I can't find it, and the fact that it happened in that moment, and it could have even been coincidence. It could have even been fabricated. That van might have been a police van and was getting to a crime scene or whatever, and that's why they were speeding.
Well, and I mean,
our car could have died in that instance for any fucking reason.
And I mean, like, who knows? Maybe somebody fucking cut that wire and it just happened to be, like, smashed onto itself just good enough that it was sparking for the whole time that you were driving around.
We were driving around for hours.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That doesn't hold a lot of water.
It's a stretch.
Yeah.
All of our rational explanations felt as much of a stretch as our irrational explanations, you know? Like,
yeah,
anything kind of seemed possible in that moment.
I mean,
because
short
it's
of a tiny
so...
man with some really sharp scissors, you know? Like...
So it just seemed... It still seems. It's all so weird. I was talking to a friend of mine recently and telling him this story because I'm going to get him on the podcast. Actually, my old bandmate, Scott, and he's got some great stories. He's coming up soon. Listeners at home, you're going to love it. Anyway, I was talking to him, and he even kind of suggested the idea of, which again, I don't know what I believe in, but I believe in the power of mind. And he was like, did you ever consider that maybe you guys didn't really want to find out what was at the end of that tunnel? You know, that maybe you all manifested this car dying. Your
psychic energy severed the wire on the spark plug.
Yeah, and it's like...
Well, cool. Then your psychic energy also killed the rest of the electronics.
Yeah, you know, and it's like, I don't know. And that's some woo stuff, and I'm not, like, going to subscribe to that either. But also, like, that's an interesting wrinkle. I know that, like...
I mean, I love that kind of thought experiment. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm down for that, going down that road, but, yeah, it doesn't hold much water for me.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is interesting because, I mean, the power of mind does create things, and it does create scenarios. Whether it can actually slice spark plug cables and kill cars, I don't know.
Tell you what, the X-Men are going to want to have a word with you if it's true.
No shit, all I can say. Well, I only wish that I received a letter from Professor X. But
yeah. Well, I tell you what, if you can ever do it for James Randi, he'll give you like $1 million. So.
Oh, yeah, that's totally true.
You know.
So anyway, so that's pretty much the whole thing, but I have an epilogue to the story. So... Nothing else eventful happened that night. We even, like, once we got the car started, we even drove where the van went. But, I mean, like,
You went back to the Barnes & Noble?
No.
You went the direction
we went the direction that it went. But, obviously, we had no idea where to go at that point. So we just continued driving around all night.
So you never found the secret government facility that this van was issued from?
We did not. We have no idea. And we've never seen that van again. And I mean, I spent however many more years in Fort Collins driving around doing nothing. Never saw this van ever again.
That's so crazy.
You know,
dude.
nothing ever.
So
but I have an epilogue to this story. Because so we just continued driving around doing nothing all night, losing our fucking minds over what had happened.
Right.
Eventually, at a certain point, realized we were not going to get that acid.
Right.
And just called it a night, and we just went and dropped everyone off and called it a night. And then the rest is history. But the add-on to the end of this is that we got a hold of the friend that we were waiting on the page from all night, the guy who was somewhere trying to score this acid.
Dude, guess what you missed?
Well, what happened to him, and we pieced the timeline together, almost around the exact same time we were chasing this van. Very close, within the window, within an hour window. He had actually scored these microdots.
Oh, shit.
And was waiting for his friend to get off work. And he was parked in a field outside of this restaurant. Okay. And was waiting for a friend to get off work who was going to come out with us and do the acid. And... apparently, and this is story from him, I don't know if this is true, but apparently, 5 cops rolled him all of a sudden for no real reason other than he was a suspicious vehicle out in a field.
Oh, what the fuck?
And as he tells the story, the cops rolled him and were on the megaphone and told him to step out of the car. And he's out in a field. And so he palms he had a film canister full of the microdots, and he palms it, steps out of the car, puts his hands up, and as he has his hands up, squeezes the cap off of the film canister in his right hand, or left hand, I don't know which hand it was, squeezes the cap off, and then just lets all the microdots like fly into the wind, into the field, and then drops the film canister. And so the cops never found any of the acid that he had on him.
Wow.
And he didn't get in any trouble. They came and accosted him and asked him what he was up to, and he was like, I'm just picking up a friend from work. And they said that they had gotten calls and all this stuff about suspicious vehicles and all this other stuff.
So sketchy.
But yeah, but this is also not that surprising, because in Fort Collins, the cops have fucking nothing to do, and 20 years ago they had even more nothing to do.
So they might not have even known that he was up to anything and just decided to be dicks.
Yeah, no, like
to do.
And it probably was the exact case of like there probably was a call, and one cop got the call and put out the call on the radio, and 4 other cops were like, "We're in the neighborhood and have fuck all to do." And like, we'll
suspicious
come,
what? I'm there.
Yeah, we'll come join this thing, because I mean and we'll talk about this more in the like close calls episodes, as we've talked about. Every time I got rolled, it was never 1 cop. It was minimum 2.
Right.
Often 3, maybe 4.
It definitely takes 5 squad cars to ask
because they had
fucking
fuck all
teenager what they're doing. You know?
Totally. Yeah, exactly. So, but like when he got back to us about that, and we kind of pieced it together, and we were like, well, that was happening to you. Let me tell you about what was happening to us, because this shit is crazy.
Right. Man.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit that I can add on to that.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the end of it. It's just so weird, and it's just so unexplainable. And I've never really had a UFO or ghost experience that I would call any amount of credible, but this was so bizarre, and I can't explain it.
Fucking hey, man, that's insane.
Yeah.
So I don't know where this is ever going to fit in elsewhere, but I wonder sometimes how many people in Bend who were like walking around out in the woods actually found a secret government facility, because in the juniper scrubland on the east side of Bend, well, outside of Bend, you know, like maybe 5-10 minutes outside of town, not far, there was a compound.
Oh, like Stranger Things?
Yes. It is where night vision technology was developed.
What? No way.
Absolutely. And they had these huge fucking satellite dishes that they were using to communicate with other government facilities that could be lowered into recesses in the ground. Wow. They had walls that were invisible to the frequencies that these dishes were sending and receiving, so that when they did raise them out of the recesses on the ground, they could do the transmissions inside of the building. They had clean rooms for all the computers that they were using. They had bunks and a cafeteria, like enough for, I don't know, like 50, 100 people to live in there. And that was where they developed night vision.
Damn.
And it was just outside of fucking Bend.
Well, so
you couldn't even see it because of the way that they painted it. Like, it was just back in the fucking trees.
But they had fences up.
Oh, they definitely had fences up.
So if you were strolling through the woods over there, you'd
just hit a
run
fence,
into this fence.
And you'd be like, what the fuck's back there? But you couldn't see anything because of the way they painted it all.
Huh.
Fucking weird. They called it COTEF, and I forget what it stands for.
And none of y'all ever thought to, like, break in there?
Well, no. So the only reason we even knew it was there is night vision had been declassified. And so they declassified the facility because, like, everybody was using I mean, it was the 90s, and, like, everybody knew about night vision.
Right.
And so they declassified the facility. I mean, it was old at that point, you know? Like,
I mean, were they still doing operations there?
No, they basically shut it down and mothballed it, and they were like, well, I mean, we don't even want to maintain this thing anymore.
It was just a defunct compound?
Yeah, so they were donating it. Or they were, I don't remember if they were donating it or if people were bidding on it, but essentially the school district had a stake in it. And they were like, hey, why don't you guys go out there and we'll try to pitch this as something that we can use for education? And I was like, yeah, man, like, think about what we can do with the clean room. Like, we could have the craziest computer lab out here, and like, you know,
when did they decommission it?
So I went out there in, I want to say 96, like the spring of 96. So it had to have been decommissioned, you know, before then significantly. I'm not sure exactly when.
Yeah. Yeah. Holy fuck, though, man. That's like the plot of Stranger Things. Just like,
I know.
Imagine like what kids wandered into that and like,
seriously,
like, oh shit, government facility.
And I mean, like, there were a few places like that we actually did sneak into. There was like these water towers up on a hill that like was just where the town's, like, that part of town, that's where the water supply was, but they had a big fence around it because they didn't want anybody fucking with the water supply.
Right.
But dude, the lawn in there was so fucking lush because they just watered it with drinking water all the time. And so like we just hop the fence and like lay on the lawn and like watch meteor showers and shit.
Hell
like
yeah.
we saw Hail Bop, like watched it on acid from that lawn.
Damn.
And,
see, you were prime. Yeah, see, I was just too young. I wasn't I was not doing acid at the time that Hail Bop was happening.
It's when we decided that the world needed to solve its problems by having giant space robot battles so that we could just watch the fireworks and like not get involved.
Yeah. Nice. Oh man. Okay, wait, where are we at on time here? You know what? Okay, this seems just prime. While we're talking about government facilities and weird conspiracy shit, I have kind of one short story.
Cool.
Actually, this is perfect because this isn't like a full story, but well, fuck. No, this is fine. This is a 4th of July story. This is not the one we were talking about.
Oh, God. We have so many 4th of July stories.
Well, you know, 4th of July is perfect for fucking shenanigans, so...
Yeah. I mean, do you want to save it for, like, a 4th of July episode, or is this just a little bon mot?
Nah, this will add on to this all
right, cool.
Perfectly. So, this was actually probably one of the largest quantities of LSD I ever did.
Oh, sweet.
And this guy was selling this stuff that he was calling Jesus Christ.
God damn it.
And it was just blotter. It was, yeah, but it was super strong. I did 6 hits, and yeah, so it was
that's a fairly heroic dose.
Yeah, pretty heroic dose. And so myself and my buddy Joe and like these 2 girls that we knew, we all took large quantities of this, and we drove up to the dam. And it was next to this pinstriped water tower that you can see for sure when you go up to the dam in Fort Collins. Well, there's a couple dams, but it was one of the dams. And there's a bunch of trails around there. And so we were like, this will be perfect. We'll go up in the afternoon. We'll dose. We'll like walk around these trails. And then we'll go and like sit up on the hill. And then we'll get to see all the fireworks from the city, which is exactly what we did.
Oh, yeah.
Everything worked out perfectly. Definitely like peaked in the afternoon, and I remember looking at this pinstriped water tower and watching its legs break free of the ground and turn into this swirling like spaceship thing with like tentacles and stuff. That was definitely like the hardest I was feeling it at that point, looking out across like the grass on this hillside and just watching like opalescent like electricity like fire across the like tops of the fucking grass and stuff. Like, it was some of the finer like visual acid experience that I had.
That's the
night proceeded to continue. There's all these like other little trails around there. There's also the water tower, and then there's the offices for the water treatment facility.
Okay.
Off in the distance, north of where we were, was the actual water treatment facility, but it was a ways. I'd say it's like a half a mile or more.
Oh wow, this is pretty.
And kind of like way out.
Yeah.
So a couple of weird things happened that evening. And again, we peaked early, and so by the time the sun went down, we watched the fireworks. We were just sort of tripping and having a good time, but we were pretty cognizant of everything that was going on. A lot of what we were doing was just hanging out in my friend's car, and I had this tape of Ween songs, like my favorite Ween songs, that we were just listening to that on repeat, like flipping back to side and just listening to Ween songs. At one point we were like drawing on the roof of like my friend's car, just like laying in the car and like drawing on his upholstery and shit with Sharpies, just tripping super hard. Eventually we got out, we had some chalk, and we were drawing pictures on the sidewalk in front of the office building for the water treatment and everything. At one point, myself and this girl that we were with, Mel, we both had this stupid, and this was weird because we were pretty cognizant, but both of us kind of had this idea at this moment of like, let's climb that water tower.
Oh no!
Let's climb that water tower.
God damn it.
Which is the stupidest fucking thing ever.
Yeah, we tried to climb some cell phone towers too.
Yeah.
Like, thankfully my fear of heights like got me out of that one.
Oh yeah, same. And so the crazy thing was, though, is the water tower was surrounded by a barbed wire fence, but we found kind of an angle where we could sidle up kind of one of the joints, and then we got over it.
Sure.
She hops up. I boost her up to the water tower ladder. She gets up, 10 rungs or whatever. I'm about to hop up, and all of a sudden we hear this alarm go off.
Oh no!
And we can't tell where it's coming from. It might be in the distance. It might be right next to us. We don't really know, but we're like, fuck, we should get out of here.
Oh.
And
God, that sound is just bone chilling when you're in that state.
Yeah, and it's just this like wah wah alarm. And so she hops down. I boost her up over the fence, and then it was just one of those weird acid moments where I lost all. I kind of just lost all recognition of reality and just was like, I'm in fight or flight mode. And I just scaled this fence and leapt over the barbed wire. But I did grab one of the barbs and put a barb through my pinky. So that was weird.
Ow, dude.
So we scale down, we run back to the car, we kind of pull the car over into the shadows. And then we're like, okay, let's ride this out and like see what happens. Because none of us wanted to drive and we're way out of town. So we're not like walking anywhere. So we're like, let's see what happens. I'm also like a little worried about my finger because I'm bleeding a little bit, but I think we found something to wrap it up with. Anyhow, turns out nothing happened. The alarm quit. And we were like, okay, we're good. So we continued just sort of hanging out, but kind of with a little bit more awareness of what's going on around us.
Mildly shell-shocked.
Then, at one point, we see a series of lights coming down the road. So this is a dead-end road. Like, the road is coming down, and it ends at this dam. And there's really nowhere to turn except for the road that goes off to that water treatment facility. And so we see this series of lights, and we realize it's a bunch of headlights. And so we sort of, like, hide away in the bushes, and our car is sort of pulled off to the side, so they probably can't really see it. And we're watching it, and all of a sudden, it's a series of limousines.
What?
Like 5 fucking limousines that are coming down this road. And then they turn and take that road off to the water treatment facility.
What?
Yeah. And there's nothing out there. Like, we were like, oh, maybe it's some people like going to throw a party, but like that didn't sound reasonable. We're trying to figure it all out, but then we started, and then the acid takes over and we're like, it's the mafia.
Yeah,
like
of course.
all this shit,
Coming out there to whack fucking Vinny.
So we have no idea. We just kind of let all those cars drive off, and they all drive off to the water treatment facility, and we're just like, well, that happened. That was weird.
Right? Oh, God.
Around this point, like, the sun's coming up soon, and we're starting to come down. So we're like, fuck, man, let's get out of here. Between the alarms and the limos and the mafia and, like...
it's just not so conducive.
Yeah, we're like, let's get out of here. And Joe's like, I think I can drive. So we leave. My mom's out of town at this point, and so we just go back to my house.
Yeah.
We like go back, we make some cereal. Like, we're all just trying to like come off this acid trip. And my friend Mel, also back in the day of pagers, my friend Mel has a pager. And she gets a page, ignores it. Gets a page, ignores it. Gets a page a third time, and she's like, this is the third time this number's paged me. Can I use your phone? Hand her the phone. She calls the number. And we're all standing around, and she goes, sheet white, just goes fucking ghost white, and hangs up the phone. And she was like, that was the answering machine for the water treatment facility.
What?
Yeah. And we're just like,
what the fuck?
What the fuck, dude? And
it paged her. Their answering machine paged her 3 times.
Yep. No one answered. It went straight to a voicemail.
Holy shit, that's weird.
And I only believe her because she went fucking so pale.
Yeah.
Like, we all watched her just like fucking kind of freak out in the moment, you know? She wasn't just trying to like add a little fun to our evening.
Man, that's weird.
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't hear it. Maybe she was fucking with us.
Right.
But I kind of believe it. And it's just so bizarre. I don't really have an explanation for that one either.
Yeah, that's insane.
It also just feels like some weird coincidence stuff. But I don't know. Between the limos, the alarms, and then getting that page, it was like, what the fuck did we get into this night?
Yeah, I mean, I don't pretend to have any kind of a...
Yeah, QX Files. Yeah, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't...
Yeah.
I don't pretend to have any kind of a rational explanation for any of that, but I will say that the weirdness level is up there.
The weirdness level's way up there. But this was commonplace, and again, we'll talk about this throughout the series of this cast of... And I mean, everyone experiences this because there's something to be said for when you do psychedelics that you just attract weirdness.
Yeah.
And it's not even just how you're perceiving it.
No.
Actual weird things just happen to you.
Well, and I've had sober witnesses on multiple occasions who are like, no, I was there for all of that. Yes, you were that high, but that all still happened.
Yeah.
You know?
And I've always done pretty conservative amounts of psychedelics. I mean, there's a couple times that I've definitely sort of lost myself, but I can look back on most trips, and even with all the, visuals that were going on, and even the sensations that were going on, I've always been pretty cognizant. And even like I talked about in the earlier cast, because of how I tripped, I had to be. Because the goal was to walk home. Like, walk north for 8 miles, and don't get busted, don't get in trouble, don't get yourself fucked up. So I always kept pretty cognizant with how I tripped. And... So, but always, every single time, some weirdness would find its way into my life, and to the point where like I cannot explain what happened that night.
Oh, same.
I witnessed it. All my friends witnessed it. We don't have a rational explanation for it.
Yeah, man. I mean, I obviously I've already told a story about drinking a puddle of LSD, but I mean that was never the norm for me. Like, we always had, we prided ourselves on having intention with our drug taking.
Same.
It was like, I mean, sometimes we definitely took heroic doses, but it was to explore, to discover. It was never like, fuck it, let's see what happens if we fucking
and even the
put this in our eyeballs.
Yeah.
Like, but even so, even with foreknowledge and like careful dosage and not even trying to be in the most fucked up place that you could possibly be, like, we still got there.
And just weird things will attract themselves to you, and that to me is one of the more real things when you talk about psychedelics. It's like, well, you can explain away a lot of it, but something happens, and a lot of the times it attracts weird shit into your life.
I love the concept of strange attractors, man. That's good shit.
Yeah, totally. No, and even just to, like, double back on that for a second, I, to this day, even get furious when people take psychedelics to get fucked up, in quotes, to get fucked up. Like, man, you drink beers to get fucked up or whatever.
Well, I tell you what, you will get your ass fucking bit if you abuse psychedelics.
You will.
There's no way to... There's no safety net.
I've had utmost respect for psychedelics my whole life, and even when I do large doses, the goal was never to get fucked up. It was always to experience something, rewire myself, learn new things, find myself.
Right.
And I pretty much always achieve that, you know? And that's kind of why I slowed down over the years, is because I stopped achieving that when I kind of started having bad experiences. It was like, well, I'm not getting this anymore, so...
Yeah, and, you know, for me, it wasn't even so much that the experiences were bad. It was just that, you know, it was...
Well, they weren't productive experiences.
It was going through the same revolving door. I mean, like, a friend of mine and I had a trip where, like, we just kind of fucking grilled our brains out for hours and didn't say anything to each other, because it was just like, yep, here we are back in this same old space that we're always in. And we're actually not learning anything this time, so we have nothing to say to each other.
Right, yeah.
We're just kind of looking at the visuals and being like,
and that's always kind of disappointing. You know? Yeah, the last couple trips I did in Colorado, it was just sort of a lot of hand-wringing for me, where it was just like, well... I just feel uncomfortable and like nothing's really getting done here. But the probably in a way that kind of meant the work
performance
was done.
Anxiety too sometimes, you know, where it's like, oh, nothing crazy is happening. Like let's put on some weird music and maybe we'll dance. Like
and you know sometimes you have those kind of lame duck trips where nothing super weird does happen. But the last couple I had just never felt like I was accomplishing anything. But it also like. My goal with doing psychedelics, and we'll talk about this at length too, was always fixing myself. It was rewiring my brain.
Yeah, self-help, you know?
Yeah, I wanted to perceive the world differently. I wanted to perceive myself differently. I wanted to understand who I was from a different perspective.
Ego loss in order to learn more. You know?
And so, not to say I have nothing left to learn, but at a certain point, I think... I kind of learned as much as I could from those things in that moment. Yeah. And not to say I'll never do psychedelics again, because I think that experience is huge and profound and impactful. But that's definitely why I slowed down. Was because, you know... You'd
done enough for that time in your life.
Those sorts of things stopped happening. So, you know, so that was a clear sign to me. Anyway, that was a sort of a tangent about doing psychedelics.
No, I like it. Like that's really what this is about. You know, I mean, this is why we're here. This is why we're doing this.
Yep, for sure.
We're coming down, and like there's a reason that we did.
Yep, for sure. But anyway, with that, man, there's some weird stories about doing psychedelics and not doing psychedelics, being dead sober and having some weird shit happening.
Oh, sure.
Anyone who has any rational explanation, I'd love to hear it. Please write in.
Oh my God, yes, please. If you're a mechanic or an engineer or anyone who has an understanding of the physicalities of our world and can explain how one could, sever a spark plug cable in a running vehicle without any apparent means.
And killing the electronics.
Well, and killing the electronics. Like, how is that fucking possible? I don't know. So if you know, please let us know.
All right. There you go. Hit us up. Thanks for listening, y'all.